Good morning, everybody. Here again to present um, analysis of the data life cycle using the analysis of processes. Okay, to do this analysis, I focus on several types of data and also in several, at least two environments where data is used, like, for example, the research environment and also the private sector. This means companies or businesses, how they use their data. I try to design or to model these processes here. So we are going to begin highlighting here that the process begins with highlighting objectives. Okay, when you are going to use data, you always ask or you always have objectives that guide you in your purposes. Why are you going to use this type of data? And so we are going to see this sub process uh, that begins also with um, verifying the objectives, which means that you have to have clear objectives because you have to choose this data, or you have to take a decision what type of data I am going to collect, no? And then maybe for clarifications reasons I stated this question: is this a company? No. If not, maybe you have to state hypotheses, premises, theories, doing research, and probably if this is not a company, probably this is a research center, an NGO, public institutions, etc. And then if it is a company, probably you will have other type of objectives. Like, for example, we are going to do marketing. Okay, we have to collect some primary data from a specific segment of the population, or probably we need to increase our profits, and then we need to follow the trends of our performance. And to know the performance of the company, we have some specific type of data, some variables that we have to follow. And then or simply to know better our customers, so which um, customers are the top in this season, for example, right? To make an offer, to make a discount, etc. So this is the type of objectives that guide our decision to collect some type or another type of data. And then here, once that we have clearly highlighted and decided the objectives and why we are going to collect certain type of data, we have here all this process that to think what I am going to do with this data, how I will use this data, why I am going to collect this data. All this takes a time, right? Takes a time. And then when you are finished to do that, then you have to decide how are you going to collect your data. And to do that, you have here several types of data. We can say, for example, collect primary data. You can extract secondary data, or you can search for semi-structured data or unstructured data. Okay. And then here, for example, we have two sub-processes. We are focused on primary data sub-processes, and then we can see that this sub-process begins with choosing the source. What is the source for collecting your data? Probably you have to focus in some population as a target, or you have to focus in some countries, etc. You have to choose what is the source, and to know what is your source or what will be your source is linked with your objectives. And then once you have cleared this, you have to decide if you are going to design a survey or you are going to design a protocol. Okay, these both are sub-processes also, and then you have to here to design a survey. The process begins also choosing the objectives, okay, that is in accordance with the objectives at the beginning of the process. And then you highlight your hypothesis, and then you create your variables. And then, but when you create a variables, you have to verify if these variables already have been used, if these variables has been already validated. Okay, if yes, okay, you can use it, and then here is finished. If no, you create this variable, you create the measures, how you are going to measure some phenomena. Okay, and then when you have created your variables, you applied a pilot test of the survey. You test your survey in a percentage of your sample or your target population. This will take time to receive the answers, and then when you receive the answers, you can validate your answers, and then this is important because this allows you to modify the survey in a case you have errors, or if it is perfect without errors, you can directly be validated, and then you can finish this process of collecting data using a survey. Okay, here we have also the design of a protocol. Designing a protocol also is a sub-process that begins also choosing the objectives, creating a question, because the protocol is more a qualitative data that is collected using protocols. So you create a guide of questions. You can apply also this as a pilot test to receive some feedback. Okay, this process also will take a time, and then with the feedback you can modify the protocol, or you modify the protocol to be validated and then you finish, or directly you validate the protocol. And then what more here, once both has been validated, finally you send to the 100% of your target population, and then this process will take time. Usually this, when you send your survey or your protocol or both, this takes a time. Usually a survey takes some months, and then, well, when you receive the answers, you have your brute data. Okay, and then when you have here your primary data, and then we have also secondary data here. Secondary data is a type of data and that is different from this primary data, because usually your primary data is you that collect your data, and then secondary data is data that already exists. Okay, so we can, for example, look here that the process begins searching institutions that collect this data, this type of data that you need for your study, for your purposes. There are some institutions that collect this data. These data sometimes are free, sometimes are sold. Okay, and then now institutions that we can collect secondary data, for example, Eurostat or the World Bank, the OECD, etc. And this type of secondary data usually are structured data. We can find this data as an Excel file, as a CSV file, or TXT file. So you download the data, the zip file, and you have your data, your structured data. Okay, and then here we can find also another type of data. Another type of data that is the semi-structured data that are usually we cannot collect this data because this data already exists. So you can find this on internet. You can download a JSON, XML, CSV, TSP, etc. Or completely unstructured data like audio, video, image, etc. And then you can use this type of data also, okay, for your purposes. All this process, this type of data or this type of data takes time. But when you have this data collected or extracted, you are going to staging all this data that you need. Okay, you use a staging area to storage all your data there, but you have to think that this area storage your brute data that you have collected or extracted from some sources, but this data is brute. Brute means that the data is as such you have collected it. So this means that you need to be or to do a cleaning and transformation of this data. Usually you have to do that because when you download certain data, you can find many errors, many information that you won't need, and then you have to clean or you have to transform. So here you analyze it, you see your data, and you are going to decide if it is only a simple cleaning or you have to transform your data. So here the cleaning data is also a sub-process, and we are going to see here that the process begins. You have to open the file. Okay, you open the file, you analyze each variable, with what measure this variable, and then usually you have, if you are working with secondary data, you have to company data, for example, you have to ask for dictionaries and libraries of the data to very know the type of variables and the measure of these variables, and contextualize it on the environment that you are working on. And then when data is a primary data, probably you know very well your data because you have designed a survey, you have measured, you have created a variable, so you know already very well your data. And then you have, for example, in this cleansing, you have to analyze these variables, and then you modify if it is needed, not the measure of the variable, but maybe the variable. For example, if you have If you have, for example, the gender, and you want that the gender variable be a binary, you can put 1 for males and 0 for females, or if you want a character, you put the word female and male. You can also clean or manage missing values or null values, or some other things that you need to clean, right? Clean, and then you save your data, and then you can also look at the transformation of your data, which is here the other sub-process. When we look at this data transformation, we can see that the process begins connecting to a software, because transformations are more complicated and more complex processes. So you connect the software. There are a lot of softwares that can help us to transform the data. I'm not going to focus on technical issues, but because this is a process analysis and not the showing of the techniques and softwares. And then okay, we here connect to our software, and then we have to write some queries, and then we will get our data already transformed. These transformations implies maybe creating new columns with new calculations, or for example, create new columns derived from another columns, or consider another columns, and there is other types of transformations of our data. And then when we have here transform and clean, very clean, I could say that maybe this is the data cleaning and transformation takes lots and lots of time, and there is this is according to the amount of data that we have. Here there are other technical issues to consider, but I am not going to talk about that. Only focus on this process and these sub-processes that probably, once you have collected your data, is one of the processes most important on the whole process of the data life cycle, because here we can focus on the quality of the data. The quality of the data implies very many things. All this takes time to clean, takes time to transform, and then when we have this, we have to stockage or to save this data in some place. Okay, here we have and this place will be different from the staging. The staging, you always have to come to save your original data, your brute data, right? And then here, when your data has already been transformed and cleaned, you have to storage your data in another place, and maybe this place is could be, for example, a simple file, could be a database, could be a data warehouse, could be etc. One place that you are going to storage your data, and then here is the place where if we go further, you can model your data, and then you can storage your data in this in many types of databases or data warehouse, etc., data marts, and so on. Then here we have our clean data. Okay, this is clean, ready to be used. when we arrive on this process, we have to be happy because now we can use this data, and the output of this data will be of certain quality, because it's not the output from a brute data, but it's an output of already clean and transformed data. Okay, so I have my data already cleaned, and then what I can do, okay, I can do data visualization, I can do data analysis. Again, I try to separate data visualization and data analysis because there are for me there are two processes different, which are different. Okay, and then in data visualization, for example, the process begins. We have to connect to the data source. Think that the data source now is in this case our data source is here, here in here in the stockage data, where we have our cleansing data we have here, and then here we connect to this source. We choose which variables, because there are already clean and transformed. We choose the variables, and we choose the visual that we are going to work with. Okay, and then this is in data visualization. Then data visualization also we have several types of software and technologies to do data visualization. And then when we go to data analysis, we begin the process with recalling the objectives, searching specific variables, analyzing descriptive statistics, running models, saving our results. And here in data analysis, maybe we run several models here. We run and we use more statistics, descriptive or probabilistic models, econometric models for machine learning, regressions, etc. And we have here all this machinery to do this type of statistical analysis or data analysis. And then once we have data visualization or even data analysis, we have to write certain reports. Okay, in data visualization, for example, when you do dashboards or you do reports for companies, sometimes you need to write a report. Periodic report are writing and presented in a visual way also. Okay, but there are the visual is very important, because managers usually want to follow the trends of live information, live data, that how my customers increase or decrease, how are the products that I sell that are more sold in this period of time, or what are my profits, how my profits change. So to do that, we use live data, okay. But we can do using certain technologies. We can do reports using exporting these visuals to a PDF and then writing reports, etc. and so on. And then in data analysis also you use certain software, like for example R, Python, Stata, SPSS, to perform more statistical analysis, or you can use, for example, machine learning. And then when you have to do write the final report of this, you can export also your graphics and so on, and then writing a report. In the world of research, usually there are types of articles, type of working papers or books that I are writing, and then this type of tools of technology can be used also, or data analysis to do this type of documents, or final documents. So this is very, very important, because here we are going to have an output, final output, that depends of this data, this quality of this data, and then this quality of data depends on how much you have worked on this process of cleaning and transforming your data, because you can get data from anywhere, okay, considering your objectives. Okay, I am happy to be present to have presented this analysis of processes of the data lifecycle. If you have any question, if you have any comment, please, I will be happy to hear from you, and then we keep in contact and ready for the next. Have a nice day. Bye bye.